Bonus episode, Cryptids of Appalachia. Happy Halloween, y'all! Surprise, surprise, it's a bonus episode. Can't do a spooky month without covering some of the spooky creatures of Appalachia. Today's episode is about the Cryptids of Appalachia. Well, some of them. If I covered them all, we'd probably be here till next Halloween. If you listened to my Mothman episode, you'll remember that a cryptid is an animal that is claimed to exist, but has never been proven to do so. The Appalachian region is full of cryptids. I'm going to try to cover some of them today and the rest in a future episode or two. There are a bunch. Appalachia is known for cryptids due to its combination of factors including its rich folklore traditions, dense forests, rugged terrain, and isolated communities. There are a lot of caves and forests to hide unknown creatures. As I mentioned before, the Appalachian Mountains are very old, so I guess if an unknown creature were to exist, this would be the perfect place to hide. We'll start with the two I've already covered, the Flatwoods Monster and Mothman. The Flatwoods Monster is more of maybe an alien and not a cryptid, if anything, but who knows. On September 12th in 1952, a family in Flatwoods, West Virginia, in Braxton County, said they were visited by an alien spacecraft. On that night, several boys in Flatwoods spotted a strange object streak through the sky. It appeared to land in a nearby field, so they headed over to investigate and reportedly came across a 10-foot-tall creature that's since become known as the Flatwoods Monster. The mother of the two boys, Kathleen May, and a teenage National Guardsman, Gene Lemon, were two members of the group who claimed to have seen the monster. They went on to give interviews to reporters and even shared their encounter on national television, spreading the story of the Flatwoods Monster across the country. Local police found no evidence to back up their claims, and subsequent investigations by the U.S. Air Force concluded that there was nothing paranormal about what had been seen. But the 7 witnesses remained adamant that whatever had happened that September night was anything but ordinary. And a couple other people reported seeing it too, but those were the main accounts there. You could, listen to my episode and learn a little bit more about it, but many people think that it could have been a meteor that was spotted in the area. Other people think that it could have been an owl. Did they actually see anything? Or was it an owl or a meteor? Who knows? Next is a Mothman. 2 young couples out riding at night claimed they saw the monster. Articles in the newspapers at the time reporting that the monster was also commonly seen in the TNT area near town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Some locals speculated that perhaps they were seeing cranes or owls or other creatures, and they wondered if it was a creature, was it mutated, involving the chemicals associated with storing TNT in that area. Regardless, legend has it that the mysterious men in black suits began visiting the town shortly after the sighting reports, sorry. There were other reports of sightings over the next year. The most infamous sighting of the Mothman was on December 15th, 1967. Locals said they saw the Mothman on top or flying over the Silver Bridge, which was a suspension bridge over the Ohio River that connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia to Gallipolis, Ohio. According to Mothman lore, shortly after the creature was spotted on the bridge collapsed, resulting in the death of 46 people. Was the Mothman real? Did it cause the Silver Bridge to collapse? Probably not. But you never really know, I guess. If you haven't listened to those 2 episodes, definitely check them out. I go way more into detail of the stories. If you're interested, obviously. You don't have to. So let's cover some of the other cryptids I haven't mentioned before. Some I can find a lot of info on, some not so much, but we'll do the best I can to try to explain these cryptids. Let's start with the wood booger. The wood booger is a Bigfoot-like creature said to roam the forests of southwestern Virginia. The name wood booger was given to the creature because it was often rumored to carry off young children like the boogeyman. It's a chimpanzee boogeyman type beast. Wood boogers are believed to live in mixed forests and kidnap children under the age of 13. I guess if you're over 13, you're good. They're willing to knock out people that get in the way of their schemes. Wood boogers are believed to be a species of devil monkey. There isn't a whole lot I could find because the internet keeps leading me to bugs that eat trees that are also called wood boogers and not the cryptid. So I guess that's about that on that. If you know anything else, let me know. There are a lot of Bigfoot-like creatures I'll be covering here. The wood booger is just one of them. Next is the Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat is described as a creature heard whining about camps at night, a spiritual green-eyed cat having occult powers, or an undefined imaginary animal. It's kind of like an I can't say this word, amphibious panther, which leaps into the water and swims like a colossal mink. The Wampus Cat was mentioned in newspaper accounts in the 1930s in the Piedmont area of North Carolina. The creature was accused of killing livestock. Its roots go back to Cherokee lore. One legend tells of Running Deer, a Cherokee woman who wanted to take down the evil spirit Awa, known as the Spirit of Madness. Running Deer wanted revenge, for she believed the spirit was responsible for driving her husband Standing Bear to madness. Equipped with a booger mask. I don't know why everybody calls everything boogers in the mountains, but I guess that's just a Appalachian thing. But equipped with a booger mask and the spirit of a mountain cat, she surprised and defeated the spirit, becoming the tribe's spirit talker and home protector. Some believe that Running Deer's spirit resides within the Wampus Cat, guarding the Cherokee lands against dark forces hidden in the depths of Tanasi. According to another legend, the creature was once a woman who spied on a sacred ceremony by hiding beneath the pelt of a mountain lion. A medicine man punished the woman by transforming her into a fearsome feline entity, the Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat allegedly has several supernatural abilities, one of the most notable being its ability to emit spine-chilling screams. These vocalizations are believed to be a method of attracting prey or warding off potential threats. The half-cat creature is also thought to possess exceptional speed, agility, and stealth, allowing it to navigate the densest of forests and remain undetected. Legends suggest that it can shapeshift or become invisible, making it even more challenging to track or capture. These extraordinary abilities have both fascinated and frightened those who have delved into the beast's mythology. And if you've ever heard a bobcat at night or some sort of wildcat, I can totally see where this legend could form. They definitely sound like a woman screaming. They're super creepy, I think. Next is Apple Devil. Apple devils are small, quiet species of Bigfoot. They wander near human residences more often than others of their kind. Strangely, for a humanoid of such size, the beast can run incredibly fast on bipedal legs and disappear without a trace. Like I said, they're a Bigfoot-type creature in our mythology. And this is, of course, also in West Virginia, another West Virginia cryptid. Amidst a wave of cryptid sightings overtaking West Virginia, groups of short, hairy, reddish-brown men were one of the many cryptids that were first officially documented in the 1960s. During this West Virginia wave, several reports materialized of these humanoid creatures stripping fruit trees, littering yards with hordes of bitten apples, tearing down fences, and breaking large limbs from trees. Having been attracted by easily obtainable produce from the creatures would feast until detected, quickly fleeing and shrilly yelping before disappearing into thin air. Most of the early sightings were reported by farmers and residents with fruit trees in their yard in Marlinton, West Virginia. It's a rural town with less than 2,000 residents. And it's Marlinton, not Marlington. I think I said Marlington, but it's Marlinton, if that matters. I'm sure it matters to the people that live in Marlinton. Next is a Tennessee wild man. When I first looked this one up, I thought it said Tennessee Williams, and I was like, he's not a cryptid, he's real. But no, it's not Tennessee Williams. It is the Tennessee wild man. The origins of the Tennessee wild man go way back to the 1800s in McNairy County, Tennessee. One of the stories is that a circus freak showman somehow captured the beast and put him on display in a cage to where everyone could see him for exploitation until it finally broke free. The description of the Tennessee wildman is much similar in appearance to the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, but only more human. It's about 7 feet tall and it's always accompanied with piercing red eyes. It's known to spout out a disturbing war cry that can frighten anyone that hears it, and it has a horrible smell that's reminiscent to the skunk ape. So yeah, that's real pleasant. It's very aggressive in behavior and could possibly be the arch enemy of Sasquatch. Ironically, often fighting for territory reasons. Not surprisingly, the wild man possesses great strength, agility, and speed. There have been many groups of men that went out hunting for the creature, but all the times, usually, they don't find anything or something traumatizing happens to them. The monster is known to have a strange targeting obsession with dogs and women. Many women came out to say that the wild man had attempted to snatch them up and carry them away. Some folklorists and historians point to the European tradition of wild men as a possible source. These figures, often depicted in medieval art and literature, were seen as embodiments of nature's untamed power. When settlers arrived in a new world, they brought with them these stories, perhaps finding in the vast wildness of Tennessee a perfect setting for such a tale to take root and flourish. Others suggest that the wild man legend may have its origins from Native American folklore. The Cherokee, who once called much of Tennessee home, had their own stories of mysterious forest-dwelling creatures. Could the wild man be a blending of these indigenous tales with settlers' own fears or fascinations? The legend of the Tennessee wild man isn't just built on vague rumors and campfire stories. Over the years, there have been numerous reported sightings and encounters. Next is knot deer. The knot deer have been sighted throughout the centuries all over the world, but with the seeming focus on Appalachian mountains. Each sighting has a small difference, but with some things in common. Most people have seen them say that there is some uncanny intelligence behind their eyes, which are often forward-facing the way a predator seem to be. Because obviously a deer is a prey animal, so their eyes are to the sides. And they have joints that bend in weird ways. In many ways, it seems similar to the Native American monster, though without the implications of where it comes from and the taboo around saying the name of it. The knot deer is characterized as a distinctly unknown animal, but rather how it appears and behaves in contrast to a known animal, a deer. Knot deer are variously described as looking like a deer, but with there being something wrong with them, such as having, like I said, the forward-facing eyes of a predator, or eyes that are judged to be too close together, a neck that's too long, a head that's misshapen, or legs that are judged to be short and are jointed and move in unnatural ways. Some people believe that it's a skinwalker cloaked as a deer. Others believe it's some kind of alien surveillance, hence the strange proportions. Of course, there are some potential explanations for the knot deer that aren't paranormal. For example, many animals, including deer, are affected by a disease called chronic wasting disease. In fact, it's very prevalent in deer, and the disease can cause strange behaviors, movements, and even appearances as their brains become more and more impaired. Side note here about skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are a popular cryptid, but there's not a lot of information about skinwalkers in the Appalachian Mountains. So I'm not really going to cover them today. I'm going to try to look more into detail with them in the Appalachian region, and if I find more, I may do a later episode or include it in my next episode about cryptids, but I really can't find much, so that's why I'm not covering skinwalkers here. Whirling Whimpus. From the hardwood forest of the Cumberland Mountains, Tennessee, comes the rumor of the animal called the whirling whimpus, the existence of which may throw some light upon the fate of those who fail to come back to camp. According to woodsmen who have been looking for timber in eastern Tennessee, the whimpus is a bloodthirsty creature of no mean proportions. It has a gorilla-shaped head and body and enormous front feet. Its unique method of obtaining food is to station itself upon a trail, generally at a bend in the trail, where it stands on its diminutive hind legs and whirls. The speed is increased until the animal is invisible, and the motion produces a strange droning sound, seeming to come from the trees overhead. Any creature coming along the trail and not recognizing the sound is almost certain to walk in a danger zone and become instantly deposited in the form of syrup or varnish upon the paws of the whirling whimpus. It lives along the hardwood ridges of the southern Appalachians and is doubtless responsible for the occasional complete disappearance of hikers in the area. A chunky beast, some 7 feet tall, with a body about the size of a coal oil drum and roughly furred. The equine hind legs unite at the fetlock, terminating in one broad hoof. So I'm not really sure what that means. The front legs, disproportionately long, sinewy, and powerful, end in broad paddles when standing at ease. The whimpus usually rests these on the ground. It hides behind a bin of hiking trails and waits for its prey. When it hears something coming, it begins to whirl at ridiculous speeds, pirouetting with its massive arms outstretched. When it reaches 2,150 revolutions per minute, like, I don't know how they figured this out, but anyways, when it reaches that, it becomes invisible, like a whirlwind. It lets off an awful droning sound, which seems to come from the trees overhead, distracting the prey. The air begins to churn, but by the time you look to see, it's already too late. The creature pulverizes its target into a fine syrup, which then it licks off its massive bony knuckles. Its prey typically includes lone hikers, turkeys, and even bears, and it's known to steal gin for flavoring, I guess, for what it catches. The northern spoonbill. I'm including this one because it's actually confirmed, but it's not exactly a cryptid. Still, I thought it was neat to see how things might exist that we don't know about. The northern spoonbill is found in northern states of the United States, including New York, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and recently New Jersey. Reported sightings have occurred through the 2010s, which is when it was declared a cryptid. However, these claims were proven correct, as a photo was taken confirming the spoonbill's existence. It is uncertain how spoonbills came here to be in the northern United States, as nobody has seen them fly into the state, nor has anyone seen them leave, as they are usually found in warm southern coastal states. Very different environment to Michigan, Minnesota, upstate New York, and central Pennsylvania. In the most recent confirmed sighting in New York, a mating pair of spoonbills were spotted at Montezuma National Park, upstate New York, in 2021. This is the only confirmed pair to have been brought up by a hurricane. It is unknown what happened to the pair. It's speculated that they have died. However, no remains have been found of either of them. It's unlikely that the spoonbills could have... I keep saying spoonbills could have flown back south, meaning they seemingly vanished from the area. Attempts were made to rescue the spoonbills that were found. However, nobody could get close to these timid birds. There have been no confirmed sightings since. However, there have been multiple unconfirmed sightings of pink birds found in northern marshes. Sorry, I lost my place here. In northern marshes. In the summer of 2023, the most recent confirmed sighting was in Michigan. A large pink wading bird was seen standing on a long reddish lake. So there you go, a cryptid that's not really a cryptid, but was confirmed as actually existing. So, like I said, you never know. You never know what's out there. Next is a snallygaster. This one's in Maryland. I don't get to cover much of Maryland, so I was excited to include this one. The earliest incarnations of the creature mixed the half-bird features of a siren with the nightmarish features of demons and ghouls. The snallygaster was described as half reptile, half bird, having a metallic beak lined with razor-sharp teeth. Occasionally, alongside octopus-like tentacles, the snallygaster was rumored to swoop silently from the sky and pick up and carry off victims. The earliest stories claimed that the monster sucked the blood of its victims. 7 pointed stars, which reportedly kept the snallygaster at bay, can be seen painted on local barns. This was in the 1700s and 1800s that it was supposedly seen. Then newspaper accounts throughout February and March of 1909 describe encounters between local residents and a beast with enormous wings, long pointed bill, claws like steel hooks, and an eye in the center of its forehead. It was described as making screeches like a locomotive whistle. A great deal of publicity surrounded the string of appearances, with the Smithsonian Institution offering a reward for the hide, and even U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt reportedly considered postponing an African safari to personally hunt the beast. But it was later revealed that these reports were part of a hoax perpetrated by Middletown Valley Register editor George C. Roderick and reporter Ralph Wolf in an attempt to increase readership. The descriptions they invented borrowed themes from existing German folklore, including dragon-like creatures who snatched children and livestock, and also appeared to invoke descriptions of the Jersey Devil, which had been spotted a mere weeks earlier. So, if the snallygaster existed in the 17 and 1800s, it definitely wasn't the one that was seen in 1909, since that was made up. Next is a Grafton monster, another one in West Virginia. On June 16th, 1964, Robert Cockrell was driving home from work on Riverside Drive, which goes past Grafton High School and hugs the Tigert River, when he saw a large white obstruction in a small clearing beside the road. Cockrell described this creature as having white, seal-like skin and no visible head. He also recalled the creature being very large, between 7 and 9 feet tall. The Grafton monster is described as being 7 to 9 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and having a white sea-like skin. The monster also possesses no discernible head, which is what I just said, I guess. I'm sorry if I repeated that. The Grafton monster's head was rested in the middle of his chest. The Grafton monster has a very deep bellowing being heard for miles. Groups of teenagers went in search of the Grafton monster, doubling it monster hunting. Several of them even reported sighting the bird, or the monster. More sightings followed, but no physical evidence was ever found. So there's not a lot of evidence for this one, just one guy and some teenagers that saw it, but the legend still remains in the area, so definitely want to include it. Next is a Pennsylvanian white Bigfoot. The Pennsylvanian white Bigfoot was first sighted in Blakesley, Pennsylvania in 1970. According to eyewitness Annette B., the creature she saw in 1970, which stood between 6 to 7 foot tall, with a broad chest, a long neck, and a coat of dirtied white fur. Annette went on to describe its face. Its eyes were dark and spaced far apart. Its white hair covered the lower half of its face. There was pinkish skin around the eyes and forehead. It looked like its hair was a little longer on its head and hanging over its forehead like bangs. On September 27th, 1973, 2 girls were standing outside in Beaver County, Pennsylvania at 9:30 p.m. when an 8-foot-tall being covered with white fur and with red glowing eyes ran into the woods nearby. These things always have red eyes, which is weird. I think it's just the way the light picks up. If they are really seeing something, it's just like when you look at a cat and their eyes are red sometimes with the light. But that's just my opinion. But anyways, the humanoid was carrying a large glowing orb in its hands. The girls ran off hysterically into their house. The father of one of the girls went into the woods in search of the creature and stayed there for over an hour. That same year, a glowing orb landed near Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and 2 Bigfoot creatures were observed in the pasture at the same time. A woman fired a shotgun at a Bigfoot creature only a few feet away, and it disappeared out of sight. At about the same time, a luminous object hovered in the nearby woods. Is it just an old Bigfoot, white with age? Maybe a Yeti? An alien? Nobody really knows. Next is Tailypo. One of my favorite podcasts, Old Gods of Appalachia, did a tale on Tailypo, and I had never heard of it until then. But there's actually a lot of information about it, so descriptions of the creature vary wildly, although it always has thick brown to black fur and red or yellow eyes that glow eerily. It has a long tail, sharp claws, and is generally mostly the size of a dog. Its body shape ranges from feline to canine to an ape or rodent-like creature. Most often, it's a chimera of multiple creatures. In the original myth, the Tailypo demonstrates the ability to speak. This is most often described as a raspy feral voice. It is likely carnivorous, as in most versions of the story, it devours or is implied to devour humans and dogs. They are persistent creatures who treasure their prized tails and will stop at nothing to get them back. They've also been shown to be destructive creatures, going as far to burn down houses, even after accomplishing their goals. In some tellings, the Tailypo is attracted to insects or spiders, which could explain why it is said to be originally spotted inside the home or cabin before its tail is cut off. The gist of the tale is this. A stubborn old woodsman tries to make it through the winter high up in the hills. His provisions begin to dwindle, and he grows hungry. One night, a creature sneaks up through the hole in the floor. Sometimes it's a crack in the wall or other variations. The old man chases the creature, cuts off its tail, and eats the tail. Now, full and content, he goes to bed. The creature returns in the night and repeats in the dark, "Tailypo, Tailypo, I want my Tailypo." The old man sicks his dogs on the creature. One by one, the dogs disappear. Eventually, the creature returns to get its revenge. In some versions, the old man is ripped to shreds. In others, he simply disappears, and nothing remains of his cabin but the chimney. In any event, the creature disappears into the night, repeating, Taily po, I got my Taily po. And I think this is mainly in the Kentucky region, from what I could tell, but it may be in other parts of Appalachia too. Next is a grassman. The grassman, also known as the Ohio grassman, Kenmore grassman, or orange eyes, is typically a tall, bipedal hominid that stalks the woods of Ohio, hence the name Ohio grassman. It is reportedly very similar to Bigfoot. It seems to be much more aggressive than any other of the Sasquatch species. The grassman gets its name from the small, hut-like living structures or nests it builds out of tall grass. This Bigfoot is bigger than its cousin, the Sasquatch, at 8 to 10 feet tall. This monster is known for grass-like fur and unbelievable strength, ripping cars and etc. apart like nothing. This Bigfoot is known to run in a pack with one alpha male. These Bigfoots have been spotted in West Virginia, but their home is in Perry County, Ohio. Due to its sheer size and power, it's dubbed King of the Bigfoot. If you try to hunt this creature, be prepared, because this creature is known for its aggressive behavior in killing dogs, cats, and sometimes humans. The last size update for the grassman was putting him at 10 foot tall in height and was said to be the alpha male of the species. Now, I don't know how they know this is the alpha male, since they've never actually have any evidence of seeing it, but I guess that must just be a theory. Next is a Cumberland dragon. This one was only seen once, but how often do you get to talk about dragons in America? So I wanted to include it. This was posted in the Caledonian Mercury on December 4th, 1794. In February last, a detachment of mounted infantry commanded by Captain John Beard penetrated 15 miles into the Cumberland Mountain. On Cover Creek, Ensign McDonald and another man in advance of the party as species discovered a creature about 3 steps from them. It only had 2 legs and stood almost upright, covered with scales of black, brown, and a light yellow collar, in spots like rings, a white tuft of crown on the top of his head, about 4 foot high, as big as a head as big as a 2-pound stone, and large eyes of fiery red. It stood about 3 minutes in a daring posture, orders being given not to fire the gun except at the Indians, and that's the language from the time. I'm not saying Indians. Mr. McDonald advanced and struck it with a sword when it jumped at least 8 foot high and lit the same spot of ground, sending forth a kind of red matter out of its mouth, resembling blood, and then retreated to a laurel thicket, turning around often as if it intended to fight. The tracks of it resembled that of a goose, but larger. The Indians reported that a creature inhabits this part of the mountain of the above description, which by its breath will kill a man, and if he does not, instantly immerse himself in water. So, that's the Cumberland dragon. Like I said, that was the only sighting of it, but just thought it was kind of a neat little story. Next is sheep squatch, which is another West Virginia cryptid. Of course, there are a lot of them. West Virginia is a hotbed for supernatural stuff, so the physical appearance of the sheep squatch, I cannot say that word, sheep squatch, varies between accounts, and is described as either a large creature that walks on 2 legs, similar to Bigfoot or Sasquatch, or a 4-legged creature, larger than a dog, but smaller than a horse with sharp teeth. However, the sheep squatch is almost always described as having white fur and horns, and stories usually describe the creature as aggressive, with some accounts detailing how the sheep squatch would eat horses and other farm animals. Sightings of it are far-reaching. The West Virginia tourism website says sightings of the creature have been reported in the Point Pleasant TNT area, which of course is where the Mothman was, and it was also spotted in Marion County. Marion County tourism reports sightings of sheep squatch as far north as Rivesville, which I'm not sure where that is. I don't know where Marion County is in West Virginia, but I probably should have looked it up. But I do know where Point Pleasant is. There are a ton more of cryptids in Appalachia, but I thought I might save the rest of them, like I said, for another episode, since we're getting a little long in this one. But I thought maybe I would finish with the Big Papa, Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. It's the same. They have the same name. Both of these things are the same. Sightings of the large hairy humanoid have been reported in Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia. Also, I've heard in Ohio, but, how that is. We've all heard of Bigfoot, but if it exists, what could it be? Bigfoot could be Gigantopithecus, a genus of ape, or Paranthropus, a genus of a hominin. It's believed to be the Gigantopithecus theory makes more sense due to the evidence of their travel patterns and concentration of sightings in the Pacific Northwest, which is where they started. 10,000 to 20,000 years ago, Gigantopithecus would have come across the Bering Land Bridge through Beringia and then come down through the Pacific Northwest. Makes a lot of sense because this was at the right time and it was the right size. That's the place where most of the sightings are, is the Pacific Northwest, but now they've made their way into the eastern seaboard, and the Appalachian region is a perfect place for them to hide out. Both the Gigantopithecus and Paranthropus, these are hard words to say, both of them are thought to be extinct by scientists, so if big giant ape hominins are living in the Appalachian region, why isn't their presence widely known? Bigfoot is extremely rare. One scientist equated finding one to trying to find a lost dog in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Even if you know the area, it still may prove challenging. Still, he said there is a large amount of evidence and hundreds of sightings. The tale of Bigfoot has been tracked back to the European wild man, which I mentioned earlier when I mentioned the Tennessee wild man. A mythical figure that had hair all over his body and lived like a beast. The wild man can be found in literature as early as the 2nd century BC. Stories of Bigfoot also abound in Native American oral tradition, and the unexplained ape has been studied by scientists and scrutinized on the internet. Jane Goodall has even weighed in on Bigfoot's existence, telling reporters that she wants to believe that Bigfoot is real. Because there's so many Bigfoot-type creatures in Appalachia, you can't help but wonder if they're all the same thing. But each person sees them differently. I don't believe in Bigfoot, really, but I think if a cryptid were to exist, I could see this being one. I'm a bit open-minded on Bigfoot, that's for sure, but I've never seen anything like it, so who knows? Like I said, there's still so many cryptids to cover in Appalachia. I definitely plan on doing another episode or two on the rest of them. If I miss one local to your area, let me know. I may have it on my list, but would definitely like to include it if I don't have it. Do you believe in cryptids? Have you ever seen any cryptids? If so, which ones? I always say this, I will always keep an open mind about everything. I'm a bit of a skeptic, but I'm not totally against the notion. There's so much in the world we can't possibly know about, so why couldn't there be creatures out there that we don't know about? Have you ever seen any kind of cryptid? If you have, let me know. You can contact me, as always, on Facebook or my email. I definitely will not judge you. And even if you don't believe in any of them, tell me what your favorite cryptid is. I would have to say that my favorite cryptid would definitely be Mothman. I mean, he's local, he's quirky, he's an introvert. He's my kind of guy. So spooky month is over. Boo-hoo. But we still have a lot of amazing stories to cover. Starting next month, I'm thinking about doing an extra episode a month on something less spooky in Appalachia. Like a positive story, something about someone we need to look up to or hear more about. I'll still definitely be covering the dark side, so, because there's a lot of stuff to cover. But there's also a lot of good Appalachians out there, ones we should hear more about, so I would definitely like to cover them. I'll make it a bonus episode, so it doesn't take away from my darker content. I was thinking about what to call these episodes, since I'm Poison Appalachia. Maybe they could be like Palatable Appalachia or Potable Appalachia or even Positive Appalachia, which is kind of boring. What do you all think? What would you like it called? And would you like a positive episode now and then? Just let me know. Like I said, you won't have to listen to it. It'll be a bonus episode, but just thought it might be something fun to include. As always, thank you all for listening to my podcast. I really do appreciate it. I love doing this, but I love even more that other people enjoy me sharing it with them. You can follow me on socials under Poison Appalachia. I'm on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, and Instagram. You can always email me at poisonappalachia@gmail.com. Contacting me on Facebook would probably be the best way to get in touch because I'm on it the most, or my email. If you can, could you please like and rate me and share my podcast with your friends? Thanks again. Have a happy Halloween. Bye.